All right, I've been kind of scatterbrained trying to put together what I actually did because this is the first time I've actually deployed something. So I want to take you in this video through my thoughts and a few things that I did to go from idea to V0 to cursor for fine tuning to creating a repo to deploying on Vercel successfully and then being able to make edits and push those changes and then merge everything into the ultimate file path that we are wanting to go on. So I'm just going to give you the brief rundown, each step condensed, so it's easier to internalize this as you watch what I'm doing. I'm pretty scatterbrained while I'm doing this because I was so excited that I actually got it to deploy. But I built the prototype in V0, downloaded the project file, created a new cursor project using the devon.cursorrules method of actually creating the project. I gave Composer in Cursor a prompt from V0 on just catching it up to speed and how to set up the project. Brought all the contents into the cursor folder. And then after it scanned the code base, I installed dependencies. I didn't know what I was doing or why it wasn't working, so Cursor actually had to lead me down that path, but I just used the trusty old, please use your professional opinion to determine and execute the next logical step. So that really helped. I then set up a repo on GitHub and pushed the dev branch, and then we created a project in Vercel, pulled the repo from GitHub, which it'll automatically do if everything's connected. We created a feature branch for edits and made some edits just to test that process out, pushed it to GitHub, reviewed the changes in Vercel, and then created a pull request to merge it all together. So I had no idea before like yesterday or the day before that this was the process to actually deploy if you're doing things raw as opposed to just these prompt to build type of things, which don't have as much flexibility as if you're using Cursor. So I wanted to show that process because it's pretty rare for me to come across videos where they're actually talking about deploying something that works. I find the best way for me to learn is if I'm building a thing that I'm actually going to use. And so that's what I did here. So I hope you find it valuable. I hope my scatterbrained, kind of method of going through these things isn't too much to handle. Just let me know in the comments if there's any parts that you have questions about. And also just ask your AI tools as well. If you have questions, I don't know how to code, but here we are. So I hope you find it valuable. If you do, definitely stick around, subscribe. I'm going to keep making videos, and let's get into it. Oh, today is a good day. I've been working on that Hold My Brain project, and I've been talking about how, that's going to be a long process. I'll do multiple videos on it, but I also wanted to cover some other things, like building things with V0, because I'm currently building a website, which you can see right here. We made some really fucking good progress today. So a lot of the YouTube channels that I follow, they do a great job showing you how to use things, but there's this whole, the meta is more, let me just bust into these new things while they're hot, show you how to use them, but then you're only making MVPs. You're not actually building the thing and deploying it. Some of these, higher tier people are, but one of the things that's lacking is I don't know the process as a non-developer of taking the wireframe I've built on V0 and actually putting it out there and deploying it as a website. So I wanted to go through the process that I just successfully went through, one, so that I can share it, and also two, so that I can go back and watch my own video and figure out how to do this thing again on other projects. So what I had done is I had started this website on V0 and just kind of built out the wireframe based off of this website that looked rad. It was like just a landing page. I don't know where it went. I can't find it on here. Anyway, I took a screenshot of the home page. I just asked AI, I don't remember which one. Is it better to start with a template and build from there, or should I start with a solid prompt and just the look of it and build from scratch? It said to build it from scratch, and so that's what I did. So I started it off as a landing page. I basically just, this is the initial prompt. create a dark themed enterprise landing page with navigation, hero section, yada, yada, yada. And then this effect where the cursor has this gradient that follows it around. So I put in that prompt and then just kind of let it know what I liked in certain places, change things around, just build. You see, I got to the 94. Well, I got over 100 versions in, and then this is from, I set up Contentful. I took a detour that I shouldn't have done because it just adds complexity too early. And so I have a blog page and a recipes page just because I'm putting a bunch of things here. It's just a general hub. I built all this up and got it to a nice point, and then I was like, how am I going to update my blog? How am I going to update the recipes? It was telling me you need to create an account on Contentful and create all the fields and yada, yada. So I was recording. I recorded 4 hours of me doing all that super tedious shit, and it didn't even result to anything except for a broken wireframe. So got to the end of the energy that I had that day to do that, and I was like, this has got to be, what the issue is. And so I wanted to illustrate all the steps in the process so that you can see where I fucked up and what I did to lead into the correct steps after that. So after reverting from 106 or version 106 on this back to version 109 was created by restoring version 95. What I did is I reverted to that step because I had gotten to a good place where I was pretty happy with everything. But then it was right before I started to nitpick blog and recipes. And so I told V0, I would like to deploy this to Vercel. Should I create a repo and or download the project file to open it locally in Cursor? I'd like to be able to continually make edits to it, but I would like to be able to commit too. Please just answer the questions, don't take action. And I said yes to all of that. So then, since the devon.cursorrules has been such a robust partner to work with in Cursor, I did the general steps to get that going. So just as a reminder, went to my build folder, did the cookie cutter thing, said yes, named the project, yada, yada, did the Python upgrade, and then I opened the project. I then downloaded my files, download zip. I unzipped it in Finder, opened the folder, and just dragged all the contents from there into the project that I had just put in my build folder. I just called the folder that I put all my projects in build. It's just easier to organize things. So once I had those files uploaded into the Cursor project with the Devon cursor rules, I beefed it up with some extra debugging information that I had put together. This I added to the default scratchpad in Cursor, and I let it know that we're building an XJS website, and then told it to look through the whole file, the whole code base, to get caught up to speed. Once I entered the debugging information into the cursor rules file, I told Cursor that I wanted it to look at the whole, all the contents of the cursor rules file and just assess where we're at and what to do next. And so it basically asked, why is the package.json file so empty? Because it asked for that information. So I went to Vercel, you can go in and click code. And so I went down to package.json, copied and pasted, and it was there's nothing in there. And so it said, the package appears to be empty because we haven't explicitly created or shown one in our previous interactions. Now, I just copied and pasted the code from the package.json file, put it into the Composer window, and then Composer said that it looked empty. So I went back to V0 and asked, this is what Cursor said. So then V0 said, the package.json file appears empty because we haven't explicitly created or shown one in our previous interactions. In the React project we've been working on, we've been using the Next.js runtime, which doesn't require a package.json file. So then I told Cursor what it said. The thing that's going to be amazing is when we can actually have these tools communicate with each other, so that we have agents that are this robust that communicate with each other. So then automating those connections is going to be whoever figures that out is going to be well off. So once I basically just went in this back and forth, and I was like, this is what Cursor said, this is what V0 said. So I told Cursor what V0 said, I copied the response. I have downloaded this project's contents into a file that I opened with Cursor, and I'm using the agent composer to help me build locally. This is what it said when asking for the package.json file. And so what Cursor had said is, I noticed this package.json seems quite minimal for a Next.js project with Shadcn UI. This suggests it might not be the complete file from your V0 project, as it's missing some essential dependencies like Next, React, and React/DOM, Radix, UI packages, which Shadcn relies on, Tailwind CSS, which Shadcn requires. Say Shadcn 70 times. Any Shadcn components you've installed, blah, blah, blah. It was just a bunch of things that were missing. So V0 gave me another suggestion, and then I had to say, look, I'm not a developer, so I need you to help me step by step and understand what's going on and how I can make sure that what I see in V0 is what I'm able to see as I build this thing using Cursor. Please provide any information you may be missing on taking this next step. Also, please help me understand the core fundamentals of this build process so that I know what we actually have here versus what we need to make sure that we see the same thing with React, Node.js, Next.js, Shadcn, UI elements, and any other parts of the tech stack we need to mention all included. So I'm just reading that off so that you know kind of the conversation that led me to down the correct path. So I had Cursor analyze the next best step, and I told it don't take any next action, but just kind of analyze everything. And so it said that we have a Git repository set up with Cursor rules. Took a look at V0's message analysis. So it said that the recommended plan was to clean up the current repository, initialize the Next.js project, version control integration, and then Vercel integration. And so I just said, do this step by step. So this, what that will have us do is give us a properly structured Next.js application, all necessary dependencies, correct configuration files, maintained Git history, professional project structure. So I basically at that point just said, yes, let's take this one step at a time, ensuring a solid foundation. So we pushed through a full composer chat worth of debugging and installing the dependencies, and I just kept reminding it, use your reasoning method of solving problems that's in the cursor rules file. And then after we had gotten to a good point past the debugging and everything, I had Cursor help me create a repo via Cursor agent rather than actually going to create the repo on GitHub. And then we made our first commit. At that point, I pulled up Vercel and started a new project based off of, just what Cursor said to do next. I had a few failed deployments, like 5 deployments failed. And so what that looks like is when you're going to deploy, so add new project from a Git repository. Let's pretend we're doing this. So what you have to do is in here, the default settings, that was not the term it was using. It was using npm install. Next.js, this was .next. But basically, you have to make sure that those fields are correct. And the best way to do stuff like that is ask Cursor, what do I put in these files to, in these fields to make sure that it's correct. So I basically just went back and forth about 5 times, deleting the project I had started, starting it up again, and just kind of going back and forth until the deployment actually went through. And so the best practice was to delete each project and start from scratch, just basically what Cursor said to do. And then once we got it to deploy, that was like the greatest feeling. It's the first deployment that's actually worked. So what I did from there is the trusty old progress report so that I could open a new composer window and get it caught up to speed. The next step was to create branches, like feature branches. So these are a few branches, I believe. I think that's how it works. So that's an older version. This is a newer version. So this is a content update. So it had me, we committed, and then we created a branch per Vercel's recommendation to do a feature branch Double checked that with Cursor to make sure that was the right move. And then just went back to the trusty old, please use your professional opinion to determine and execute the next logical step. And that brought us here. So now this is the actual website. You got the cursor working, you got the footer looking correct. Even like without me asking, connected my GitHub, which I did want it to do, and then removed my Twitter, which I don't really like. My Twitter is tied into my past few years into crypto that I need to create a professional one that's more geared towards like AI and stuff like that. So it automatically disconnected that and said, I can add it back if you want me to. Just really intuitive. LinkedIn just goes to another link on this page. So for the time being, this is what it looks like. And then I got these cool animations that took a few prompts in V0 while I was building it. Services I'm going to be providing. This is going to be updated. I'm actually going to put videos here that show the stuff that I've built in the past. I'm going to be updating the blog with Contentful, and so I still have to connect this. You can see I'm not fully finished yet. So the process that I was going through when I was just like pushed to my limit is in V0, it had told me set up a Contentful account so that you can update your blog and format it and do the same for the recipes. And so it wanted me to do it for both of them. So I went down that rabbit hole and I was like, okay, so I started on blog, created the blog thing, and then I was getting errors. And it's like, oh, you actually have to post a blog. There has to be actual content there because I think it's very particular with how things are formatted and how you set up your fields. And I think there had to have been some typo along the way, as well as I just needed an actual blog in there. Not have any written yet, but I kind of want to document in writing the process of, building these things, as well as just whatever else comes to my mind. But then recipes are all that I have written down currently, but then I realized I had just copied and pasted a recipe with and then tweaked it to get started and then made it my own and then hadn't updated the actual instructions. So I sat there and typed out the instructions and then I'm like, I need a picture. Well, I don't have a picture of the soup right now. I didn't, do food pics. So then I went to Claude and told it, so I need an extremely beautiful picture of loaded baked potato stew. So then I took this prompt, chiseled it down, gave it to Midjourney, and came up with all these things. Because I'm like, I gotta put together, it's got an image. It's got an image in the recipe, so got to do that too. So I just went down this unnecessary rabbit hole that resulted in nothing but just like pain. And so come at it with a fresh brain. I'm like, hey, maybe I shouldn't go through that yet. So now that I have gone through this whole process, what I would recommend is if you actually want to build something that you can then use, have some content ready to go as far as what you want to do, and then pick something visual that you can implement that you're like, I like how this looks. Get a solid prompt put together, have it be concise and actionable. Next.js is definitely the way to go. Just chisel down the features that you want to add, and once you've gotten a good wireframe down, download the file and then pull it up into Cursor, but also just make sure that you're installing all the tech stack and all the dependencies that need to be installed. You got to set up that solid foundation or else it's not going to work. Like I've been playing around with these tools since like fall of 2024, and this is the first thing I've actually gotten to deploy. The Hold My Brain app, I'm telling you, like the amount of stuff that I'm putting into this, it's so tough to get it to work, and it's an app. It's not just a website. So getting this to be fully functional, it's going to take some time. So I just wanted to post a win because I've been needing to get my website put back together. I had one built for my music production and mixing and mastering business. This time, instead of WordPress with a theme builder that just was not compatible with anything, to now Next.js with Shadcn and UI elements, feeling a lot better about how this is turning out. So I'm going to keep building this and making it actually more appropriate to what I'm going to be offering. And I just wanted to get this out there to show you from start to finish the deployment process. So wireframe in V0, export the file, start a cursor project. And I would recommend, you don't have to, but I would recommend doing it with the devon.cursorrules repo on GitHub. I'll post these instructions in the description. But basically, wireframe, download the V0 file, start up cursor by creating this and naming the project here, and then going into the file that you've just built, and then drag and drop the unzipped file that you have downloaded from V0, drag all those elements, just everything that's in that folder, into your cursor project, pull up Vercel and create a new project. As you pull up the new project, you can actually import from your GitHub. So that repo will already be there. You just import it and make sure to follow the instructions. Just tell Cursor to give you step-by-step instructions if you don't know exactly what to do, and then deploy from there. So yeah, just wanted to share that win. And yeah, if you found this valuable, like, subscribe. I'm having a blast putting these videos together. I'm also learning DaVinci Resolve on the fly. This channel is, all these videos are just my first attempts at actually putting these videos together, so they'll just keep getting better. So yeah, appreciate you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video.